Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7, and this is going to be my review for Episode 9 for this season. We're halfway through the season officially after this episode, and this episode is otherwise called Timeless, which is pretty fitting. But of course, spoiler alert, if you've not watched the episode, go away, because we're going to be talking about all the big moments from this episode, and a good amount happens in this, which sets up the final 2 episodes in this arc with all the forces and stuff. So yeah, if you've not watched it, go away. But of course, if you have watched the episode and you are continuing on with the video, it would be awesome if you could let me know your various opinions, thoughts, any theories and stuff like that. Just general reactions to the episode in the comments section down below. I'm always curious to read them. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support for the channel and the video, and just if you enjoyed the episode and stuff. So last episode was the conclusion to the Frost or Killer Frost arc in court. So we did have some setup, like some minor setup for this episode, where we had the introduction to the character of Alexa Rivera, who is the human form of Faweza, or the Strength Force. So we do meet her throughout the episode. And we learn that she is a good person. She's not this evil person who's going around doing all this stuff. It's just that the Faweza side is this other side of her where it sort of enacts, it goes and does stuff based on her emotions. And that's why she killed Abracadabra, because Abracadabra had ruined the development thing that they were doing. The community development project. So the Faweza side sort of lashed out. So she didn't necessarily she wouldn't walk up to him with a gun and shoot him, but the Faweza side would go and kill Abracadabra. But at the end of the episode, the Speed Force breaks bad, I guess you could say, or betrays Barry and end up killing Alexa. Now, I thought she hadn't died. I thought she legitimately was just stunned or something, and that they just thought she was dead on the spot there. But she actually did die. But that gets fixed later on. But we start this episode off where we left off at the end of the last episode. So I think this is going to be like a sort of continuation through these last few episodes. Just going to sort of pick up where we left off. And we have like the Speed Force, I guess you could say, like making excuses for why she supposedly killed Alexa. And she's talking about how the other Force holders are corrupted when, I mean, she's the one that's corrupted. Like, are they really the ones that are corrupted? Because Alexa isn't, as a person, isn't corrupted. The only one who could really argue that is corrupted fully is maybe Psyche, but I think Dion is just in his own little pocket, if you want to call it, and he feels like he's been made by these forces. And I think Psyche's maybe the only one that you could say is corrupted, but I think the one that feels the most corrupted is the Speed Force. I don't know, but anyway, Barry refuses to help her. He's like, no, why would I do that? But she's gonna go kill them regardless. So, target acquired for Barry then. Like, he's like, okay, well, now I don't necessarily have to stop Psyche, Dion Owens, or, Alexa. My main target is the Speed Force. We've got to stop that. Now, there is like a thing that sort of starts at the beginning of this episode and ends right at the end. I thought, well, let's just talk about it right now, and it explains some stuff going forward. So Camilla's like photography work is accepted in, I think it's like an exhibition or like an art museum or something in San Francisco, something along those lines. And she's thinking about going there to help. And this is obviously setting up Cisco's departure. So Cisco to Francisco, might I say. He also gives Camilla like a camera lens to help identify force holders, which I use in this episode. I think it was just like a convenient plot point. I don't think it's going to be... It might be used next episode. I don't know, but just felt convenient for this episode. But right at the end of the episode, they both agree at the end that they're going to leave Central City. Now, they don't specifically say they're going to San Francisco, but based off what Camilla said at the beginning of the episode, that's where they're going. So yeah, that's setting up the departure. Now, whether that means Cisco leaves in episode, I think it's 12, which is called Goodbye Vibrations, or it's later on, that's for us to wait and find out. But seeing that they're saying it now, I don't think that they're going to wait another 9 episodes to leave. So I'd assume it's going to be sooner rather than later for Cisco's departure, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, Barry's plan to sort of stop what the Speed Force is trying to do is to go back in time to cancel out the creation of all the forces that we saw at the end of episode 3. 3? Yeah, 3. Yeah, it was 3. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah, 3. Now, Iris disagrees, which is fine because it involves... we've seen what time travel does, We've seen what it is. The only issue I had, and we've mentioned this previously, I think a lot of people are sort of like, what the hell? Is that Iris isn't dumb, so I'm not sure why she's acting like Nora is... Well, Nora... I understand like they have like some stuff later on which connects to it, but I guess they wanted to push back based off like emotion rather than logic. Like, I'd rather if they just stay with the logic course, but yeah, at the time I was like, I sort of rolled my eyes, but I guess later in the episode they sort of add some reasoning to it. But yeah, but I think most of us were like, oh, time travel, this will go well. But even though they sort of explain how it can work later on. Now, Barry was going to use the modified tachyon device, which we did see in the trailer for this episode, which obviously they did modify to collect the matter from Mirror Master or Mirror Mistress or Mirror Monarch, whatever they're calling her. But they're going to modify it to collect force particles this time around. But of course, some help is needed, and it's best to get the help of the person who pretty much set all that up. And that was, of course, Wells. So we're going to go get him. And he's pretty confident with like enacting this plan without messing the timeline. So using his abilities to take Barry back with him, collect the particles in a sort of like time bubble sort of thing that doesn't affect stuff going forward either. So even though they're going back to the past, Cisco and Chester and stuff in the present day won't feel the effects of their time travel because all the events will still play out the same. It's just that these forces will be taken out of it, if that makes sense. So it's a bit of mumbo, like scientific time travel mumbo jumbo, but let's just go with it. Now, one scene that caught me by surprise, and I was like, oh, okay, where's this going to go? Was when Dion Owens, aka the Still Force holder, suddenly appears in the Speed Lab in Star Labs. Now, he's drawn there through his connection to Barry. Now, it's quite a tense scene, especially with the music they used in it. I was like, oh, God, like what's going to happen here? I wasn't actually sure where they were going to go. And Dion is completely against their plan because he pretty much feels like a god based off what's happened to him. And does mess up the tachyon device. He just aged it like many years ago, like corroded and stuff like that. However, luckily for Team Flash, when Dion arrived, the collection disc that they used to collect all the matter was actually hidden by Chester in his pocket. So even though Dion destroyed the actual tachyon, harness device thing, the actual collection part isn't ruined. So in turn, the plan isn't ruined. Now, when you listen to Dion, he did make some good points, and Cisco thinks they should just go with what Dion was saying. The current plan they have just has some like ethical holes to it or moral holes to it, but Barry feels he is in the right, which I think you can make the argument that Barry is in the right. But that's the thing. I think that's based off if the force holders were legitimately evil. But we've seen that Alexa isn't evil. Dion isn't there. Dion's just like sort of in that spot that we saw him when he showed up and what he was talking about. And as I said before, Psyche is the only one where you could feel like, okay, maybe he's actually evil and corrupted. So when the majority isn't on that evil side, maybe, not going with Barry's plan is the right way. And, then we have this talk with Joe, which sort of pushes Barry more in that direction later on, where, Joe's telling Barry, yo, you should lead the force holders down the right path and everything like that. Don't judge them right now. Judge them from what they become and what you can, help them become, using Wally as an example, which I thought was really good. So even though I think both ways worked, I think Barry's like method and Barry's plan would only have been the 100% right way to go if they were legitimately evil. So if he was dealing with 3 force holders who were going around killing people every single day. I think that's the only way that you could 100% side with Barry's plan. Now, we did have a bit of like a subplot with Iris, Camilla, and Allegra, or, Team Citizen, going to the old Allen house to locate the Speed Force. I think the last time we saw that, someone was living in there, so it looks like no one's been there for a while, so I don't know what happened there. Did they mention, maybe post-crisis, I don't know. But they run into Psyche instead of the Speed Force. Now, this is a big moment. There's fear visions for all of them. We don't see what Camilla and Allegra are seeing, but for Iris, she sees Nora. That's her fear, and it's just about like how she, she's always playing second fiddle and she'll never be what she is and stuff like that. But she's able to break that vision due to the connection. So I have a feeling, especially with something that happens later in the episode, which we'll bring up, that this could be the way where Psyche just has no effect on both Barry and Iris. Just because of Iris able to snap that. You could argue, why wasn't Barry able to snap that? I think Barry sort of just succumbed to that vision, probably, back then. You could argue it, but I think it was plot convenience, maybe. I'm not too sure. Like, why Iris can do it now and Barry couldn't do it then. Maybe the connection's stronger now. She's able to do it now. I'm not too sure compared to, like, episode 5. But the big moment in this episode is when we have Barry and Wells traveling back to the night the forces were all born, and we actually see that the Wells back then in episode 3 actually saw Barry and his, future self, like Wells saw his future self. So that's what he was looking at in episode 3. We were wondering, what was he looking at? I think most of us, including myself, just thought he was maybe looking at a window at all the forces going everywhere, but we now know he was looking at his future self and Barry there. So that's how he knew that it was probably going to work, because, stuff hadn't hit the fan after that. So I'm guessing that's how he knew it would work. But But Barry steps inside this like stream of lightning to absorb the force particles. Now, all the force holders are like erased in the present day. They don't. I thought they were just losing their powers at first, but they're just erased because I guess that version can't exist there anymore. But Barry's able to listen back to Joe's words about like not judging in the present and basing everything off how they can, be affected going forward into the future. And Barry releases the particles back into the stream. Now, we did have some like funky stuff going up in the sky. I don't know necessarily that's gonna affect stuff going future because it did look different, but I guess it was just like a different perspective. So I guess it's the same. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, next episode. Now, Barry does reference when he's talking to Iris, like feeling how keeping the forces alive affects like future speedsters, some of which are Barry and Iris's family. So I'm assuming this is referencing Bart and I guess Nora as well. And we know that they're showing up in in episode 17 of this season, but maybe it's referencing some other ones, which we might meet. Maybe some evil ones. I don't know. Now, this is the thing I was sort of referring to in regards to like Iris breaking Psyche's connection. So we have Barry and Iris able to bring Alexa back to life. This is because Barry and Iris are together. So maybe Barry and Iris being together, maybe along with Alexa now as well, will help bring both Dion and I guess specifically Psyche into their loop to help stop the Speed Force. So just like that connection grows more and more. So I'm assuming that's what we're going to be seeing next episode because that's part one of like the finale for this story. So yeah, I know you could argue it's a bit corny, but it makes sense. It makes sense, so I'm fine with it. However, the only pickle in their plan potentially and what they want to do is the end credit scene for this episode. And that's when we see Dion just vibing to some music. I think he was playing with his football. When all of a sudden Nora, or the Speed Force, approaches him and introduces herself as a reckoning. So that's going to be a issue, especially like if Nora gets with Nora having having Dion under her thumb. So you could have Barry, Iris, Psyche, and Alexa on one side, but Dion's pretty powerful with what he can do, and then we know what what Nora can do, as what the Speed Force can do as well. So it will be interesting to see how all of that does play off. And it's very important to remember that like Nora has red, blue, and like the yellow lightning from the Speed Force. So the red from the Strength, the blue from the Sage, and the yellow from the Speed, but she doesn't have green, which is what Dion's color is. So maybe she might get all four colors, all four starting Pokemon. That's sometime next episode. I'll have to wait and see, but yeah. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this episode, and I thought it was really well done. Like there was some really, really good scenes in this episode. The Dion one just caught me off guard, and I thought it was really good. And just how they handled all the setup for what we're going to see. So I'm excited to see what this two-part finale to this storyline holds and where it can lead as well, heading into the back half of the season, might I say. But yeah, I enjoyed the episode. Really had no issues. As I said, there were some issues maybe with just like the logic of some people early in the episode and where they were coming from, but I think it's properly explained as we get through this episode towards the end and stuff like that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. You love it, you hate it. Let me know your thoughts down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.